Good evening, everybody. System Chalk here with the 13th episode of the House of Light, our first run through, first run on YouTube. And we're continuing off on the day which I pretty much started, I guess, due to an over-enthusiasm for the game. But honestly, that's not a bad place to be. So, I believe I was going to try and get the Isle Water, or I was going to use the Isle Water to cure my acusis. We are still waiting to camp, so we've got 90 seconds for that. I will confess I'm a little lost on what I wanted to do with my Elements of the Soul. It may just be that I wait to see what the current affairs bring. However, I'm going to pause and unpause. This should be something that will give me winter, and it is 5 letters on memory. Okay, so with that in mind, I'm going to just chill out for a little bit. We'll see what the Affair of the Royal Endeavour brings us, and then based on that, we will try to figure out what to do with the remaining Elements of the Soul today. If I can, it would be nice to make the jumble, but I think given that I need to cure the affliction, I think it would be fair to say that I need at least 2 days before we move on. Okay, Signor Corso Reverte. So this is someone I was looking for a very long time on the previous playthrough. In fact, the whole way that the invitations to Brandkrug work largely get past the issue that I had trying to find this gentleman again. So, Signor Corso Reverte, manuscript hunter, legacy scavenger, mercenary. Many would question his ethics, few would deny his acuteness. The Affair of the Royal Endeavour. The new king has sanctioned the use of the crown's wealth to fund a visionary new industrial project, one that will transform our economy and furnish the kingdom with a sense of patriotic mission. Parliament, dazzled, has already passed the Royal Endeavour Act, mandating the construction of the necessary facilities, although the details remain in some respects vague. So again, it would be nice to have Hyksos, but it's even better to have the card. So we will talk about the Affair of the Royal Endeavour, and then we will move on. Now, one thing I should just maybe specify in terms of how I'm handling this, and I think probably as far as making some progress in the game is concerned, it's probably better to do it this way. But you are not under any obligation to help each character. And in fact, I believe the further stories turn out differently depending on whether or not you help everyone. So gameplay-wise, there can be a benefit to helping everyone at the start because that gives you their contact information and you can bring them back for your own purposes. But if you care about how the further stories turn out, you do actually want to take some time thinking about whether or not these are people who are worth helping. So for instance, when it comes to Corso, something of an untrustworthy character, I may want to take the time to find out whether or not what he wants in relation to the Affair of the Royal Endeavour is something consistent with what I think is, where I want the world to go. And I think maybe it is kind of worth noting, I guess, I don't know if this was a deliberate choice in terms of House of Light, or if this was sort of always going to be in there. I'm going to lean more towards the second of those two, that this was always intended, but this idea that with House of Light, you're taking a little bit more of an active role in shaping the world, right? You are founding the Lighthouse Institute, and the Lighthouse Institute will have characters with certain agendas. You are picking the characters with those agendas. And so in Book of Hours, the base game, there isn't necessarily the same reason to push people towards in one direction or another, right? You're the librarian, you can choose to help them or not help them, but ultimately in terms of the game mechanics, there's no difference in terms of how things turn out with those individuals. However, in this one, the further stories turn out differently, and of course that will also have some effects in terms of who you can invite as part of the Lighthouse Institute. So I do think that that's kind of neat. Now, whether or not that's the appropriate role for a librarian, right? So I know, presumably if you went to your local library looking for a certain type of book, you would hope that the librarian's personal opinions on whether or not what you are doing is a worthwhile thing is a you wouldn't want that to be a factor in terms of whether or not you got help. So as an example, if you go in looking for a book on software patents, let's say, you probably wouldn't want the librarian to have, a staunchly anti-software patent stance to a point where they would mislead you or simply not give you the information that you need. I think that's unlikely, but at least where I'm based. But that's kind of the example where in this game here, there are actually a number of reasons why you might find that desirable now that the expansion has been added. But first thing I'm going to do here is write down Corso, and he wants Grail food and drink. It would be kind of funny, though, if he turned out to be a teetotaler. All right, I don't need an appointment, do I? The new king's got a lot of Continental Powers nervous, librarian, so a friend of a friend has asked me to drop by and do a little reassuring research. I was wondering if this was what it was. Yeah, so this is an example here. If I felt a particular way about the new king, I would probably not want to assist Corso in this case. So I might have even run into this before, but I should have said this at the time. It's like, I bet he's here to spy. But in this case here, I'm still going to help him out, primarily because I want that contact information. But also, I'm at the point here, all of this is new, so I kind of want to see where this all winds up going. So, let's have a chat. I hope I have a lantern book, but honestly, 4 lanterns not going to be that hard to find. I'm not a spy. Spies don't go to libraries. Just a paid researcher doing my bit for world peace. Mind if I take a look around? I have the higher level lantern. Actually, it's probably easier if I just mouse over lantern mysteries. If they're in these piles, it's almost certain that they're too high a level. I think it's probably unlikely that I'm going to have it in the other piles, but let's take a look nonetheless. Yeah, so those don't do anything. I think we're going to have to give up one of the level 8 ones. So, Unhatched Hymns, Light in the Inkwell, Prophecies of Glory, the Watchful Tantra. Alright, well, we'll hand over the Watchful Tantra for this. I'll be honest, librarian, I don't think anything I found will reassure our foreign friends. Well, if they don't start a war, I won't either. Good luck with your new king. Okay. So, the thing that we were waiting for has passed. The visitor will have a minute before that passes by, but there isn't really any indication that so in terms of the things that I'm doing, there isn't really any indication that I need to do something different. So, I think I probably have 2 options here. So one of them would be to feed the chickens again. But I do rate the idea of getting the Salon underway rather highly. So here's what I'm thinking. Let's find a desk that will take Moon. So if we take Trist. Now I don't recall if Pearl and Tide. Yeah, that doesn't help me out here. Sea Stories? Nope. So I may have to resort to Inks of Containment. I'd rather not, if I can avoid it, but... So yeah, Edicts Martial doesn't help me. Although I can get my old wound back. Yeah, looks like I'm stuck with Inks of Containment. Well, Sickle and Eclipse, but that's about the same as Inks of Containment. And of course, I have the option of trying Ugal, but my health would be what gives me access to that. And I have other uses for my health. So, take Inks of Containment. We would take the Lunar Globe. So this gives me 3 of the 5 that I need. So what we do is we read the appropriate books, get the appropriate memory, and then we make the pot of ink that we need. And I think I said I was going to have 5 invitations. So we just need 1 more. So let's take the Shapt to read a book with a confounding Actually, I guess I only really have 1 confounding parable book, and I'm not bringing anybody else in, so I could do an intuition. The 5 Letters on Memory, Julian Cosley's epistolatory treatise on matters memorial and mnemonic, addressed to his then friend Claude Hersault, the mystic and antiquarian. The book is partly a practical manual expounding memory palace-like techniques and partly an exploration of memory rarefied modes in which sense or experience persist outside a mortal mind. This is an early work, and by Cosley's standards it brims with optimism, even enthusiasm. If books, he suggests, are the memory that does not die, then perhaps, with sufficient endeavors, memory's murderer might be contained. Every choice has its shadow. All right, so we still need to wait for the hospital bed, so nothing to do with that quite yet. If the developers were as mean as I am, I'd make it so if you have an afflicted element of the soul, having it beside one of your other elements of the soul can infect it. I should have reflected on the fact that I could have generated a whole series of bitter black salts while we were waiting, but I think in this case we have less than a minute for the bed, so wasted opportunity. Although bitter black salts don't do a ton for me. We've got some up here, so they're nice in the sense that they're a material and a pigment, but they really only provide 1 forge, so it doesn't, on their own, they don't really do that much. Of course, I'll eat those words later when I find out that I do in fact need them. Alright, this is a safe place for me now, to the extent that dreams are safe. So we're going to take our Acusis. We're going to take the water, which I think we put on a shelf. Yep. We'll add the Ragged Crossroads. We will add our Regret. No! I wasn't even thinking about that. Shucks. So I spent all that effort, but I got the wrong memory. Okay. So, unfortunately, it's a little harder than I imagined. So I simply don't have this. This option is not available to me, right? Nectar, Edge, and Heart. Now I could ask, well, is there a Heart Winter memory? The closest that I could get would be something like Salt, which has 3, but again, we've only got Nectar, Edge, and Heart. So Fear gives me Scale, but doesn't give me Winter. Impulses has Nectar, but no Winter. Hindsight is Scale and Winter, so we would need Scale there. None of these give me what I need. Regret we have, that has the Forge element. Glimmering would be, sorry, I keep saying glimmering, I mean Bittersweet Certainty would give me Lantern and Winter. Salt would give me Forge, Moon, and Winter. And then Hive's Lament technically would be something that covers it, but that's a huge one for me to be trying to apply. So, what I need to do is I basically need to find a bed with Edge and Forge if I want to make this particular combo work. And I should have thought about that before. Now, this is technically an option if I have whist. The catch is that I don't have whist. So the other option is the motley bed. Now this one's kind of interesting because this would take the regret. However, it wouldn't take the relevant memory, or it's a relevant skill. It takes the relevant memory, it doesn't take the correct skill. So I suppose the question I would ask is, what are my other alternatives? Rhyme and Remembrance has moon, so that doesn't work out. Snow Stories is also a moon one, so that one's short. And actually, it's all moon and winter, it turns out. Sights and Sensations, now that one takes sky, but again, that doesn't really help us because we can't take sky in the infirmary. So I think I have worked myself into a bit of a corner here, which is a shame. So I guess the next question would be, with what I have available, so we'll plant ourselves in the infirmary right now. We'll say, okay, so we add the Acusis. We have to add that into the restore. And then we can get away with Ragged Crossroads. So the question is, where does the remaining 2 winter come from? It can come from a memory, it can come from a soul card, and it can come from the restorative or beverage. So Basket of Clean Linen would count as a restorative. Of course, it's not the kind that I need. And you know what? The funny thing is as much as I resisted doing it, the real answer here is to use the Blue Crown. So again, I'd rather not, but I also want my element of the soul back. Poured out. All right. So, Acusis, Blue Crown Tea now, Ragged Crossroads, Cure My Malady, you've supplied enough winter. And Uncanny Labors, afterwards I don't remember what work I performed except in Sense and Sensations, Leaf Mold, a rhythmic musical clicking like melodious castanets, soft blue flame like antique gaslight, and cold. I remember that where we went, it was cold. Right, another silver spintria for our trouble, definitely worth it. And as you can see here, the metal, I specifically chose that because it won't be affected by the it won't be affected by the curse or the affliction. So let's go for, I'll get the health here. At some point I would like to make some money, but let's go for something that lets me cook. It is autumn when the leaves rustle. The silent landlady has served me apple pie with steamed cream in the window nook. So the other thing that I want to think about now is, oh yes, I did say I was going to make the ink, so this tryst is set aside. If I can make something with the regret, so be it. I'll probably just want to try and make Blue Crown. But I may only be able to make that. I think I'll actually only be able to make that at the kitchen station. So these might be an opportunity to talk with Tuppence and Terence. I can feed them grapes. Although grapes also have their own uses for making food. All right, we're going to let the time pass by until I can see where I'm at with the catwink. Against the sisterhood of the knot and the foulness of their depraved customs, Hieronymus Hypnerotomachus wrote this furious screed about the sinister influence of the sisterhood of the knot on his own Church of the Unconquered Sun. Hieronymus claims that the powers served by the Sisterhood of the Knot made an arrangement. The Thunderskin loved the ewe, and the Grail destroyed him, as restitution for the destruction of the Axe's loved ones. Hieronymus's writing becomes incoherent with rage at this point. Hieronymus recovers his composure, eventually, to describe how the Thunderskin entered the Mansus through the Peacock Door. This, Hieronymus insists, is abomination upon abomination, but then that most abominable of doors has always been an abomination. Okay, so there's the 2 moon that we needed. So this is a fairly straightforward one. I can do this just at the Vagabond desk. Oop, no I can't because I don't have a moon. Ava's desk then. And then we add the lunar globe. Brew a minor ink with a virtue against vermin. Inks of containment with prentice level moon creates catwink. Or for a scholar level recipe, if I use this with a beverage, I'll mix a dark liquor that is also a precursor to a great ink. So we'll settle for the catwink for now. Now, I do have a question, sorry, not a question, but I do have an option available for me. So if I want to brew another catwink, I do have that option, right? I've got four inks here right now. And I can combine these into, I can combine the metal, basically I get another memory using the metal, and then the tryst will be the one that I use to make the ink. Now, I'm short on inks. I basically have emptied the house of inks at this point, so there is a small argument for me to do that. Alternatively, I can actually feed the chickens. I think, though, I slightly prefer the idea of equipping myself for further, well, not just salons, but basically I'd prefer to have more options in terms of the inks of the house. So we'll read the Locksmith's Dream portions and proportions again. I've already mastered this, but I could reread it and perhaps recall a memory. Now, I don't need to wait. If I have the appropriate aspects, I can write these invitations right away. So I'm going to try and do that here. I do need to be a little careful in terms of what desks I use, because not all of them are suitable. But for starters, we could take Bells and Braziers. And my preference here is going to be to use the catwink just because I can do that on its own. But Serena is a fairly straightforward individual to invite to the house. So request Serena's presence. Cecil Hotel, Alexandria. Okay, and we'll try and take advantage of Corso's card sooner rather than later. Obviously, Hokebald is somebody we will add to the book a little bit later because he takes Orpiment Exultant to be invited. We'll read the description again and then all of the outcomes. The new king has sanctioned the use of the crown's wealth to fund a visionary new industrial project, one that will transform our economy and furnish the kingdom with a sense of patriotic mission. Parliament, dazzled, has already passed the Royal Endeavour Act, mandating the construction of the necessary facilities, although the details remain in some respects vague. Strathcoyne. The procurement committee of the Royal Endeavour was, it seems, one of Fraser Strathcoyne's many clients, and so he came to Hush House to research their requests. Battleships, aerostats, locomotives. What do all these things have in common, librarian? I'll tell you. Names. Arthur Moore. Lieutenant Moore was concerned about his great-nephew's part in the Royal Endeavour, but a visit to Hush House soothed those concerns. Magister Hokebald came to Hush House to learn what he could of the Royal Endeavour's aims and nature. He seemed satisfied with the Endeavour. He seemed almost satisfied with Hush House. Douglas Moore. D.I. Moore came to investigate likely motives for sabotage of the Royal Endeavour by maverick clergy, and left with a much better idea about who might need arresting. Olympe, after her visit to Hush House, Mademoiselle Boucher came to believe that the Royal Endeavour was associated with the Second Dawn, which, she opined, she would prefer to a war. And Corso went glumly back to his foreign friends to warn them that their concerns about the nature of the Royal Endeavour might be justified. So this is also one of the things that's kind of neat about the further stories, is that as a prior, I'm less likely to further the story of Corso than I am someone like Hokebald or Arthur or Fraser or Douglas or Olympe. Of course, I will also share that this game is very good at making me reconsider a lot of my positions on things. So I can feel a great degree of certainty regarding certain characters, and then the game will reveal something to make me think again. Okay, so that's Serena taken care of. I imagine Fraser Strathcoyne's going to be a bit difficult to invite, so let's set that aside. Olympe Bichet. I forget offhand what she needs. Moth. I actually think we might be short on the moth. I could use the tryst, but that feels a little... using the tryst feels a little wrong. Let's see what we've got. So Edict's Liminal is my best moth right now. So if I add the cat wink, and then I add the journal, or the writing case. So I suppose I have two options here. I can use the occult scrap, and then that'll give me an excuse to add Corso to the book. Alternatively, I could generate a memory, and I don't really need... Yeah, so let's maybe set that one aside, just because I can't really see why I need to do this right now. I should have other options available. Okay, pyroglyphics. I think I'm in a similar position here. We're okay in terms of lantern, but I think I need the extra 1 point to really sell the thing. So this, of course, tells me that I'm more likely to need... Oh, actually, if I use the Ugal ink, that lets me invite. Okay. So yeah, Arthur Moore needs lantern, Fraser Strathcoyne needs quite a bit of scale, Serena needs forge. Oh, and I haven't even tried the others. Okay. So lantern, lantern, moth, scale, and we've already got the forge. So again, getting this done sooner rather than later is better, so we will use the Ugal ink in this case. We'll use the Ugal ink, but elsewhere. Okay, I have enough here to craft a letter inviting Olympe to Brandkrug. You know what? It just occurred to me. So instead of giving up the blue crown, like I did, if I had been thinking, I might have even said this in the previous episode, if I had thrown away something to get the loss, I wouldn't have needed to use the blue crown. I would have had the memory that would have worked with the infirmary. Oh well. Okay, so 2 of the 5 invitations, but we are going to have to work for Arthur Moore and Douglas Moore. Now I just need to post it. Dear Mademoiselle Bichet. All right. I'm going to hold off on doing anything else for invitations. I'm going to keep the occult scrap, and I think the regret's just going to expire. Actually, not necessarily, because we can restore the relevant elements of the soul. But first thing I'm going to do is make sure that we get the remaining foods. And then in a pinch, we'll also be able to invite people in the city, but I'd rather not if I can avoid that. Better now. Okay. So I'll bring in... I'll bring in the core, but I'm trying to decide whether it's better for me to make money or not. Usually if I have to debate about whether it's better to make money, the answer is I should do something else. Okay, so we've got the sugar. Now one of the funny things is I can actually just sell, not sell, but I can use the almonds as is as part of the Salon, and we should be able to get, like, that should be sufficient for the guests. Please tell me I bought almonds. I knew I was going to make the jumble, so it would be insane if I didn't, but remembering where I put them. Ah, yes, here we go. And then we need the spicing. Make orange jumble, a dish with forge, grail, heart, and lantern. Locksmith's Dream, Portions and Proportions, the second volume of Teresa Galmier's examinations of parallels in the mystic dreams of artisans. The frontispiece has been slashed with a razor. In this volume, Galmier records fewer dreams and explicates more on her own elaborate theories. We see this again and again. What is below can't escape what is above. The finest artisans all dream of the white door in the end. I'm no artisan, only a scholar. I think there is a secret that all these artisans know, but I think that secret is only half the story. Okay. Dark and pungent. All right, let's move that to the shelf. Brew a minor ink with a virtue against vermin. Okay. If I take a look at the attendees, so we're making the jumble now, which is good for forge, grail, heart, and lantern. So the 2 lantern visitors are taken care of. The beef takes care of Serena's forge. The game chips take care of what? They take care of forge. Oh, interesting. Okay, I'm going to need a second here because it seems to me like I have not actually figured out what's happening with scale. Okay, well the roast beef is taken care of the same. Okay, yeah, actually that's an easy one then. So if we use the almonds as a simple side dish, that gives us forge. So instead, the beef can appeal to Fraser. Yeah. That covers it. Probably want to order more almonds when the time comes, but... I believe I said it was Schloss Jannings we were going to serve, so we'll take care of that now. Although it looks like we've already poured... Probably already used it too. All right, pour out. Poured out. Now, I don't believe I have the Cater and Hero Second Flush Assam. I think I'm actually going to need to brew that as well. But that's fine because we were already talking about how we needed a day to prepare for all of this anyway. Okay. Orange Jumble. They should be the size of teacup rims and should curl their crisp edges faintly pink as the underneath of a young mushroom. Lady Jekyll, Kitchen Essays. One, two, three, four, five. We can space this out a little bit more. Yeah, so 2 cups of tea and then invitations. Better now. Okay. So I suppose now the question is, what do I really need Okay, this is a little lame, but I'm just gonna make money at the Sweet Bones. Manual labor. There's not much work on offer in Brandkrug, but I can find 6 pence worth of odd jobs. And another catwink. So I think my goal should be tomorrow I do the last prep for the Salon, and then the day after will be the day that we actually host things. So I want to plan out my my work accordingly. That also probably means that this Salon will be something that happens next week, but I will, if I have opportunities to sort of push things through, I will. I just think it's probably better for me to take the time to spend the time on the Salon as opposed to rushing to do it and then winding up in a situation where, you know, we just run through things, you know, like where we rush through the Salon rather than enjoy it. But I think I'm going to leave that for today. We've got the elements of the soul back. We have the food in place. We have 2 of the 5 invitations. So if I, as just a rough estimate in terms of what we're going to need, I have 3 invitations that I need to write. 2 of them are going to require the use of lantern memories. So we'll say these 2 are taken care of. Now Strathcoin's invitation is probably the most difficult of them, but if I do a quick test of it, we use one of the existing catwink. I think pentaments and precursors is my best scale. Yep. So that's 4 of the... Wait a minute, really? Oh, because catwink has scale. Yeah, okay, this is easy. So I could use the health, but it's really just a matter of memory. So yes, essentially I should treat tomorrow like we have health, metal, and shapt in place to get the work done. One of those shapts is going to be used to... one of them is going to be used to... hang on. Something for me to work out next stream, I think. But yeah, we can... No, sorry, we'll use the shop to make the tea. That's it. So tomorrow we'll have a health, metal, shapt, and core to be able to do everything. So with that in mind, I also will want to take the time to figure out if it's not that I want to just sit and do nothing all day. I definitely should be thinking about what I want to pursue in terms of goals. So that could mean trying to open up another room. That could also mean trying to read certain books. So for instance, the High Traditions of the Noble Endeavor should be something that's relatively straightforward for me to study. But again, all of that we can save to decide on the next stream. Thank you very much for watching, especially while I'm trying to work out the next stream during this current one. I think almost all of the videos are about 40 minutes this week. But we'll do our last prep for the Salon, and then I guess on Monday we'll be starting off with a bang. See you tomorrow. Take care.